There's no escaping the grief. Earl Burns Sr. died protecting his family during the worst mass stabbing in Canadian history. His father, now left behind, gives a final salute to his son, a veteran who would have turned 67 years old.
We're celebrating my dad's first birthday without him. I just didn't want it to be a sad day for us because we celebrated his birthdays with him every year. I'm gonna cut him a sandwich right now.
Deborah Burns organized this round dance for her dad, one of 11 people whose lives were cut short last September in James Smith Cree Nation. They have each other, but many here say they're facing the aftermath alone.
We feel ignored, don't feel important to our chief and council because they refuse to talk with us, or even refusing band meetings.
She says her family hasn't received much support, despite more than $500,000 sent to the Saskatchewan community in donations.
It'd be really nice for them to come and see us on a daily and see what we're actually going through. Yeah, it would just be really nice to be acknowledged instead of feeling like we're being used.
An outpouring of sympathy followed the tragedy. Corporations and private citizens sent James Smith more than $600,000. Over $125,000 raised through a GoFundMe campaign. Money that some community members want answers on how it's being used.
We have never seen paper on who donated what they spent the donations on, who got what. We have no clue. They get delivered into our community.
Daryl Burns lost his sister Gloria in the attacks. He says the band paid for her funeral service and gave his family gift cards and checks to get by the first few months. But he doesn't know what's happening with the rest of the donations, and he wants to be consulted.
Our chief runs under a cloak of secrecy. It's frustrating. And there's a lot of people in our community that are questioning all this stuff right now.
For mental health and
Chief Wally Burns of James Smith Cree Nation says he's not hiding anything. He says leadership is grappling with how to spend all the donations it's received.
How do you make sure that all the family members of the deceased and the injured are supported equally?
I thought we were making all efforts work in regards to helping out to everybody that's reaching out. I think
he says James Smith went into debt after the massacre. It spent more than $3.5 million on hotels, travel, and funerals.
We don't have no resources to help other programs.
Because you had to pull money from different programs.
Yeah. So that's not right.
He says that left the community with tough choices. It used $200,000 from corporate and public donations to reimburse those costs. $300,000 worth of donations remain in the band's coffers, with no plans on how to use the money yet.
This is all new to us. We never asked for this kind of event to happen in our community. So how can we spread that out evenly is a good question. Like, it deals with mental health, it deals with all the trauma. Like, even me, for instance, like, I never asked for any help.
Come, look, come and see.
But others do need help.
I have 5 in the neck here, and I have 1 in the arm and 1 under here.
Haley Sanderson was stabbed 7 times by Miles Sanderson, no relation, who also attacked her husband, killed her dad, and her dad's girlfriend.
I blamed myself for a long time, that I couldn't help my dad more.
After the rampage was over, she tried to return to work, but it was overwhelming.
Like, I used to be very social and outgoing and everything, but I just can't be around people anymore.
She doesn't know what she's going to do to support her family.
I wasn't one to ask for help, and sometimes I'd have to get my mom to buy us groceries, and my bills all piled up. And
The more than $125,000 raised in the GoFundMe campaign, created by former Conservative MP Rob Clark on behalf of James Smith, are all sitting in a trust account run by the chief's lawyer, Robert Karras.
These funds were not donated for the purpose of helping families meet and make ends meet. It was donated for the purpose of making sure that people are getting the counseling, mental health, emotional, spiritual counseling that they need.
He says the plan is to transfer the money to James Smith's health clinic, but only after it signs an agreement with the band in writing.
If the funds cannot, for some reason, be applied in a way consistent with the purpose of the donations, then the goal will absolutely be to provide those funds back to the donors through GoFundMe. We would have to send that money back to GoFundMe and have them reimburse everybody.
Daryl Burns hopes it doesn't come to that.
I gotta look at them first. This one is lady.
He says it's up to the community to make sure the donations make a difference in honor of the 11 lives lost, 17 injured, and all those still recovering.
I feel like we're tasked with doing right with that money. It's up to us to show the way for the rest of Canada, because if we fail, the next community may not get that opportunity. You know, if this sort of thing happens in another community, like, they're going to say, well, look at James Smith. We gave them all that money and they failed. You know, so we have that responsibility to do right, not only for our people, but for the rest of the native country across Canada.
Olivia, how's the band responding to the threat of losing this money?
Well, Ian, the GoFundMe donations might be released soon. The chief's lawyer, Robert Karras, says he's just waiting for banking information before he moves the money to James Smith's health clinic. And as for those requests for a band meeting, well, Chief Wally Burns says he wants to hold one in the spring, but a date hasn't been scheduled yet.
And community members are expecting another update this week. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the RCMP is meeting with families of the deceased and survivors tomorrow. Investigators are expected to provide an update, a timeline of the attacks, and then release this information to the public on Thursday. And while these details are preliminary, Ian, they are expected to take the RCMP 4 hours to release.
Thanks, Olivia.
You're welcome.